What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the data points, what moved it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did have a absolutely kick-ass day alongside much of the greater market, but SoFi went up 8.26%, 28.84 the low, 30.97 the high, and 92.6 million shares being traded. So a lot of the market did see kind of higher volume. So it is fair to assume, since it's happening across the board, that there is a start of a market rotation. And what I mean by that is a lot of money is sitting in money markets, almost about $7.6 trillion. And so it is fair to assume, since it's happening across the board, that a lot of that money is coming back into both crypto and equity. So that is where you're kind of seeing a lot of higher volume. And in reality, it's somewhat justified. There's a lot of big things that did come out Sunday. One is potentially a $2,000 per person stimulus, not including high-income people, as what Trump mentioned, but generally, you already know what happened between 2020 and 2021. A lot of stimulus being pumped into the market, and that is where people felt very comfortable. This is how you saw big money leaving money markets to come back into equity. So in general, this is kind of like history repeating itself, but this is one very positive thing in combination to a lot of optimism associated to the whole shutdown. So I don't believe anything's been officially finalized, but even Trump mentioned at 2:55 saying that the deal is very good. So I think it's just a matter of time before all the rubber stamps get done, and most likely that should be tomorrow. But definitely a lot of good optimism. You saw a little bit of a dip right here, and that's because of some bearish comments being mentioned by some Fed speakers. One is just that there's limited room to ease policy. So of course, I think generally the market wants a December cut. Because of the whole shutdown, we haven't really had that much in labor data, but potentially if things go back to normal, then yeah, we could be getting CPI, PPI, initial jobless claims, retail sales, all coming out later today, or sorry, later this week. But definitely that could be a pretty good catalyst to justify maybe rate cuts. It's all gonna come down to the data, but specific to SoFi, nothing really came out. So no SEC filings, no press releases. You did have SoFi Insider posting this, so a fact sheet, SoFi crypto fact sheet that did point to 1% fee for buying and selling. So maybe it's just a matter of time before this is officially announced, and that in among itself could really push things higher. And I think SoFi in general, if this momentum does continue, it's just going to be a matter of time before we see a new 52-week and all-time high being hit. So definitely exciting stuff. Hats off to SoFi Insider. Only thing that also did come out was Anthony. So I've really enjoyed Anthony kind of engaging more with investors, because I remember there was a period where he only kind of did lacrosse posts and football, and obviously that's his passion and stuff, but generally him being the CEO of SoFi, he kind of needs to talk about SoFi. So I've kind of complained about that in the past, but it's good to see. So Vlad mentioned, he responded to someone saying looking into it, and yeah, even just right here. So when's the last time Anthony Noto jumped in to help? I'll wait. And this was posted by Legacy Architect. So it's good to see Anthony just saying that he's watching here and paying attention to people. And this isn't the first time he's openly said, hey, I'm paying attention to what people say. So just because he doesn't always respond to some of the hate comments and kind of negative criticism, like, doesn't mean he's not paying attention. So I think in general, good to see Anthony kind of speaking up. But yeah, let me know your general thoughts on that. This isn't, on a side note, the first time that we're seeing kind of Vlad and Anthony in the same chain of sorts. So I feel like still people are comparing Robinhood and SoFi. So kind of interesting stuff. But aside from all of that fun stuff, looking at shorts, they did increase 306,000 shares, because most likely, pardon my French, they're probably shitting themselves. They see the momentum that's building in the broader market, and they're trying their very best to slow the progress. But clearly it didn't really work out too well for them at all, just with SoFi and a lot of other stocks. But 8.46% of the free floats being shorted works out to be $100.32 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow average a little bit higher than the norm, so 0.52%, and then DTC sitting at 1.43 days. So it is starting to inch up slightly. That does factor in the average volume for SoFi in comparison to number of shares being shorted. But aside from that, looking at the options, we did have 100 million in calls and then 14 million in puts. So definitely good to see a lot of money still getting into SoFi through options, 16.3 million in net premiums going higher, and then 52% of all the options being done were bullish in nature. Bulls are anticipating for it to be kind of between that looks like $32 to $33 range. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 30 to 29.50. And if you kind of think about it, the things, as I even mentioned in my video yesterday, that was kind of looming over the market was shut down and just rate cuts. And so potentially both of those and more got, as positive catalysts, got injected into the market. So there's not really much reason to be negative unless something crazy does happen, out like a war or something. But as far as today, we did see a lot of big money getting into SoFi. So 76.9, that was a high one on the secondary market. 15.2, 8.2, 6 million. So a lot of big money is getting in. So definitely good to see. Feel free to pause it and look at the timestamp. Same goes for the dark pool. So dark pool, oddly enough, we didn't see any kind of larger transactions greater than 7.67 million. Dark pool is often enough used by hedge funds as well as shorts. So it doesn't look like any hedge funds or shorts were that active today. But like I said, 7.67 was the highest. That was done first thing. And then 3.07, 1.88, and so forth. With it closing at 30.54, it is right above this R1. So 30.49 is going to be that key support. Just watch for that in the short term. And then 31.81 and then 33.93 is going to be the next strong target / resistance points. So as I mentioned, just a hop, skip, and a jump away from a new 52-week and all-time high. So exciting things are coming down the pipeline. When it comes down to SoFi on the chart itself, this has been some insane price action. So for those of you that are kind of good day traders, like it has been like a crazy money making, or even if for those of you that do options, a lot of this volatility probably has resulted in a little bit higher premiums. And I think generally one thing that we have learned over the last couple trading days, or over the last couple weeks, I guess, is it bounces off of that 50-day moving average quite a lot. So SoFi has been a crazy fighter. So it did close above that 10-day moving average. So showing a lot of good momentum. Market position, you see a lot of willing buyers. And how this is set up is a very similar kind of scenario when we started to really push higher back in June 2025. For those of you that remember that, when we're at the $14 range. So it does look like the same type of setup that we're going to have, just breakout type of price action, unless, like I said, you never know, unless there's some crazy war that does happen or something. I'm not really sure. But aside from that, there really hasn't been that much in articles. There is a fireside chat that is going to be occurring tomorrow. I believe it's Anthony speaking, or sorry, Chris speaking, but again, it could be either or. And historically, that usually does result in a green day. So it'd be good to see SoFi go from this day to another green day tomorrow, potentially as well, dependent on what is unveiled, maybe a new 52-week and all-time high. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you are looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. Or if you just want to know where I realistically see SoFi going. So I did put out my price target recently, and for those of you that have been really following it, it has been on point during this whole kind of run up. So definitely worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.